Hey everyone, welcome back to Dev Parkour. I feel like it's been forever since I did one of this style of video, but I'm excited to be back doing it. In this video, I want to talk about branching, and specifically in the context of the Git version control system. You certainly can branch with other version control systems, but typically when we talk about branching, we're thinking about Git and I suppose Mercurial and other version control systems that specifically have kind of a native branching feature built in. And the question is, when is the right time to start branching? So, for instance, you start a side project, you're probably just working off your main branch, and every time you make a change, you just make a new commit on main. That's the way I work. That's the way I've seen most other people work. It's really easy for a side project, and honestly, it doesn't really make much sense to start branching right away. Even if you have continuous integration, continuous deployment, testing, that sort of thing, it's still, what's the downside if main breaks? You just have to fix it. Not really the end of the world. On the other end of the spectrum, we've all worked at companies that probably already have branching structures in place, right? So you pick up a ticket, you immediately make a branch, you do all your work there. There's a series of code reviews and testing before your work actually makes it into the main branch. Some of that is driven by compliance efforts, SOC 2 compliance, for instance. I'm not sure if it requires branching, but it highly encourages a branching strategy like that. But the real question is, at what point do you make that jump? And it's certainly not, when you have to think about SOC 2 compliance, right? That's a fairly late stage thing. SOC 2 compliance is fairly expensive, and you probably want to be in a place where you need a branching strategy before then. My recommendation for when you start branching is when you have other people using your software. The rationale for that is basically when you are the only person using your software, you can make a change, use it, see how it works, make another change, use it, see how it works. Fairly linear progression. If your project gets big enough, you might start thinking about, hey, I want to try building this feature, and you might create a branch for that. But I would venture that by itself isn't a true branching strategy right there, because there's still nothing preventing you from making changes directly to the main branch. Most of your development can be fairly linear, but you can still have experiments and you can put them on their own branches. But it doesn't require that all of your work has its own branch. What does require that all of your work has its own branch is as soon as you start having other people using your software, because you need some stable point to be able to build from. You might be working on something that definitely isn't an experiment. It's a feature you want to add. But if someone reports a bug, you might want to put the pause button on the feature that you're building, jump back to the last known stable point, basically the head of the main branch, create a bug fix branch, merge that in, ship it when it's ready, but still have main available for other people to use, right? You don't want to be breaking main while other people are using it. That's especially true for a SaaS solution, a SaaS continuously deployed solution, I would say. But it's a good practice to be in, even if you build and ship an installer to be run locally on a desktop machine as well. So basically, the reason behind why it makes sense to start branching as soon as you have other people using it is because you have multiple areas where feedback is coming from, multiple places that ideas are coming from, not just you and your customers, but you and every single one of your customers, right? You might have several tickets coming in at once. Maybe you even have a few tickets in flight at a given time. Who knows? You know, your process is your own. But you should definitely have a process in place well before you have multiple developers working on the project. As soon as you have multiple developers working on the project, um, you should definitely engage in a branching strategy, even if you don't have customers yet. I would typically suggest that you have customers first, and then have multiple people working on it. But you know, in the case of an open source project, especially, those two things might kind of coincide, or the which happens first might be kind of fuzzy. Now, one thing I am definitely glossing over and ignoring in this video is something called trunk-based development, which is something that I want to say, has gained a little bit of popularity over the last several years, and it's something that I want to try out one of these times. The problem is that most of the projects that I'm working on right now are either projects for work where they require, for instance, SOC 2 compliance. As far as I know, I can't do trunk-based development, at least not right yet. And that's not really something that I would want to try out at my current place of work, without having tried it out somewhere else first. However, all of my side projects are just me. So I could do trunk-based development, but it's still just me. I don't really see the benefits or the downsides of trunk-based development, because I still have that fairly linear development workflow. If you found this discussion interesting, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell if you want to see more like this. Comment down below if you have questions, if you have experiences making this transition, and how you found it to go, and maybe what criteria you use to decide. I really appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow.